Greetings, everybody. Welcome to STO World. Tony here with you, and standing here aboard the USS Einstein NCC 969331, and this is, of course, a Wells timeship. And I had quite a few people asking me if I had a timeship, and I do. And we will not only do an episode on the Wells timeship, but we will also do one on the Mobius down the road when I get that all completely configured and figured out and all that stuff. So anyhow, welcome to the show, episode 3. Great to have everybody here. I welcome all the new subscribers to the channel. It's really great to have you all here. And a couple announcements to make for you. First of all, I am constructing a website for STO World. Really just going to archive the videos on the site, have some stuff about me, the fleet that I'm a part of, etc., etc. And of course, the fleet I am a part of, Battlefleet Olympus, battlefleetolympus.com. You want to check us out. And if you're interested in joining, obviously send us an in-game mail or an email through the website, or you can find me in-game, twebster1977. So the Wells timeship, and I'm not a huge lockbox guy. I like some of the ships. I was never a big Tholian guy, but I do have a Decora, a Galler, and a Jemadar fighter, and of course this ship. And pretty soon, when I get off my lazy butt to go to Drazania Station to actually buy the Mobius, because I'm pretty close to the amount of low buy I need. If not, I got a couple more boxes to open. But I'll tell you what, temporal lockbox and the temporal ship I think is really cool. It's a fun ship, and it's a great support ship. It's not something you're not going to rack up the DPS like you would with an escort, but with one of the either time ship, and the Mobius is really awesome. I mean, that has some great specs on it, but we'll get to that sometime in the next couple months, next month or so, probably next month or so. But I have to tell you right now, this is an outstanding ship. It has a kind of a cool bridge. My favorite bridge is still either the freighter or the Cardassian Galler bridge. And but anyway, some announcements. So I'm actually constructing a website. I am actually going to do configurations on other lockbox ships, and a lot of other people who have Jemadar fighters. I've had people asking about their Decora. I am going to get to all that, everybody. I really will get to that at some point. I don't know when, but at some point I will get to that. But not right away. There's so much at STO you got to cover. The new STF system, the Omega system, the reputation, I think is going to be great. Obviously, Cryptic Priority 1 put out that podcast that showed J-Man from Cryptic and a couple devs, and they're talking about the new reputation system, which sounds really cool. Because STFs, here's the thing, STFs have been something of, I've done over 500-600 of probably each one since they redid them. And I can honestly tell you, I have so many of those Borg data chips. I literally probably have almost 2,000 Borg data chips in my bank, and it's good that they're going to actually count those towards my reputation. But I have so many Mark 12 sets as far as for ships, as far as like Omega and Mako, and I have both the ground sets. And we're going to do some of the ground STFs. Some people have been asking me, hey, will you do those? And we will. I actually recorded a really great game doing infected ground delete with an awesome team, really awesome team of players. I never really STF'd with them that much before, but again, when you go on channel Elite STF, which is what you're looking at down here in the lower left corner, I see all the people wanting to join games. So if you're looking to move up in the world, you want to join Elite STF, get a hold of one of the admins. You can go to the message board. There's more info there, but obviously there are rules, but it's a great way to get great players that are good at STF. So that is that. So with that said, I want to thank Stu Marshall from Empires of Eden. Obviously, again, let me use his music for the show. And empiresofeden.com, great stuff, great heavy metal, and a very good guy. So with that, we're going to get into the ship. Now, you're looking at the bridge of the time ship, and as many of you may or may not know, this ship originally appeared in an episode of Voyager, where they said 7 and 9 back in time, I believe it was, to prevent a disaster when Voyager was basically first leaving space dock, and this is where they sent her off to for a temporal incursion. And you have That's the bridge officers there. Now, I am very creative with the alien creator, and I do have what this is. If you look at this really closely, it is a Vorta. That's right. And I named her. I made it my own Vorta name, but I'm very, very particular about things. Very, very OCD about my buffs, and obviously my Borg bridge officer, and then one of my helm officers. So this is actually my veteran. Yeah, this is my veteran tactical officer that I received as a veteran award. So anyhow, this is really cool. Now check this out. This is what I really like about this ship. Check out the LCARS display down here when you look. Zoom in. It's really cool. I mean, you can zoom in and really get really check out the display actually moves. And I'm sitting here at the display right now, but check that out. That is really, really cool, the way they did this. And the bridge is cool. It looks very, very close, obviously, to what we saw in the show. But I definitely really like this show. And I'm sorry, I like this ship quite a bit, and it's a lot of fun. And we're actually hanging out in orbit of Andoria. You know, probably not a place where you see too many players go, but nice social zone. I do hang out with some of my buddies there on STO. We hang out at Andoria once in a while, and obviously over here you can access your account bank, and then you can go to your contacted duty officers for some of your various projects. And yeah, you know what? I do need a therapy session here. But anyhow, I'm gonna give a counselor therapy session here. But this is the Wells Timeship, and here's the bridge. And here's the thing I like about this interior. If you go in most of the other ship interiors, the ceilings are super high up. Well, this one shows that Cryptic can design an interior that's still low. Like basically from the camera angle, it's still kind of lower to the ground, but at the same time, it's easy to see who's doing what, where, and how. So, whereas some of the bridges just look colossal, they just look huge. And here you go. So, with that, we're going to leave the inside of the ship. You can check out, oh, of course, you can sit in this little stool over here. This is always nice. And sit at this little station here. And it's also got moving little LCAR stuff here as well. That's my Borg bridge officer. And there you go. I'm also wearing the wonderful, awesome, new veteran costume with the Jupiter veteran variant. So with that, we are going to leave the ship. I'm going to show you what this bad boy looks like here and how I have it configured. Then we are going to see it in action. So here we are orbiting Andoria, which you're going to see here quite shortly. And man, you know, this is a really cool looking map. And I really hope the devs add more worlds that we can just kind of visit, and adds a little bit more of that Trek feel to it. So this is the ship. And through Cryptic's awesome customization engine, I made this a white and blue ship with a little touch of red in the back. And I also have the veteran ship hull on it. The ship hull looks really, really cool. But check this thing out. This thing looks awesome. And the Mobius looks a little bit different. You'll see the deflector on the Mobius up front a little more. But you can check out how really cool this looks. I was ecstatic. This is the first box I opened. This came out. My fleet, they were like, "Are you kidding?" But this is a great ship, and you know, of course, you could spam with the messages. You know, how much do you want for it? Some guy offered me like 5 million credits for it. I almost kind of laughed because they go for about 80 on the exchange. You can get one of these on the exchange. If I were to get another one, I'd probably sell it, or usually I trade it for whatever the next ship is. And you can do that if you have another ship and you don't want it, you can honestly trade it to get whatever the next lockbox ship would be. But I really want its counterpart, the Mobius, its opposite, as you want to say. But some really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to show you how I have it configured. And again, this is a general gameplay configuration. I did actually PvP with this, and in a supporting role, the ship worked out great. I mean, it really worked out great as a supporting ship, that's what science ships really are. You are more of a supporting role in a fleet. You know, where your escorts do a majority of your damage, your cruisers kind of tank and keep people busy, and Your science ships are a great support ship. But USS Einstein, obviously I named it after Albert Einstein. And how could you not name it after Albert Einstein, considering he has the theory of relativity, talked about time travel in his studies, and I figured it was a fitting ship name. Look at how cool this thing looks cool. It really is really cool. So I'm going to show you its configuration, and then we're going to show you what it can do. Now, I do use this ship both in PvP and also because I PvP'd for the first time in about a year, in about 2 years. I'm not a PvP guy per se, but it did work. But again, I have the temporal warfare set too, which works out great. So we're going to go look at here. USS Einstein 969331, and check out some of my ship stats here. Pretty good shields, good resistances, you know, all that stuff. This is my stats, obviously. Pretty good turn rate, not too bad. I do like it. Now here's it comes by default with anti-proton weapons, so I put anti-protons on there. So here you go. So the temporal warfare set is on here as well. Now the temporal warfare set does strengthen chronoton torpedoes, which is what I put on here. I put a chronoton torpedo launcher. So check it out. Here you go. So my anti-proton beam array up front. Then you have the dual beam array. It's a chronoton dual beam array, which actually does anti-proton damage. And it's part of the temporal warfare set. A chronoton torpedo launcher, which is good for basically attacking, you know, Borg. I like the Borg variant since I do STFs. I have a Mark 12 Mako set, as you see. Really no introduction there for that, and I will again show people what that is. A couple anti-proton beam arrays in the rear, and then the temporal disruption device, which actually puts out a projectile very similar to the Tricobalt. Not quite as damaging from a kinetic damage standpoint, but man, it does a lot of stuff to the enemy when it hits you. And you could actually shoot a spread of these with torpedo spread. You know, then I got my usual deuterium surplus, got some heavy satellite turrets, and some weapons batteries. Now, what I did for the engineering consoles, I always put one of these on my hulls: engineering neutronium alloy, kinetic damage resistance, and energy damage resistance. Then you have the tetraburnium hull armor for some resistance to, like polaron, anti-proton, all that stuff. Then you have your science consoles. You have the universal Tipler cylinder, which it comes with the ship. The tachyokinetic converter, which is part of the temporal warfare set. A field generator. And a universal assimilated module. And then, of course, you have your anti-proton mag regulators. I actually got all these in STFs as drops, so I didn't have to actually go and buy them from the dilithium store or the exchange. But there you go. So to help with my anti-proton damage. And I always put one of these universal assimilated modules. Helps your critical severity, critical chance, etc., etc. Now, obviously, plasma manifold helps out with the weapons power, and so does that assimilated modules. Now, let me go over what the temporal warfare set is. Now, check this out. This thing is awesome. It really is. So, basically, when you go down, you have a couple different things. Number one, you have chronoton's synchronicity. I'm sorry, and it adds 27% damage to chronoton projectile weapons. It's a passive trait. Then you have the inversion field. Now, this is what the inversion field does, man. Look at this. It has a 5-kilometer range, kind of similar to I forget the science ability because I haven't used it in a long time. But the shockwave, that's right, the photonic shockwave, I believe it is, and it shoots out like a shockwave, and it lowers their flight speed 200%, 400% if it's a shuttle. It lowers their turn rate and their power recharge speed 150%. And you get an extra 50% in flight speed, 100% in turn rate, and 150% power recharge speed. Now, that field is devastating. And it was devastating in PvP because it basically disabled so many people. It was almost like, you know, if you hold somebody in place with a tractor beam? Well, that's what it felt like because they're held in place. They can't go nowhere. And you just have somebody just working on whatever weak side of their shields that you're working on and blowing them up. And that's why this is such a great support ship. And then you coupled in some of the bridge officer abilities, you know, you can make this a pretty lethal ship in PvP with the right group. So, and it also works great in PvE. And then you have this Tippler cylinder, which is actually part of a set. You can get it with the Mannheim device to fragment time. And that basically, all foes become held and untargetable. So you can't target them, but they can be held while you recharge yourself. So anyhow, this is great, man. You can't be targeted for 7 seconds because time rewinds for your ship. Basically what it does, and I'll show you what the ship does, it moves backwards in time to an earlier state. And then obviously you get a hit point per second, and you get some shield regeneration. So anything with like Starship Hull Repair, shield emitters, which I do have, which I do skilled, even though I'm a TAC officer, I skill a lot in shields and structural integrity, and that really helps me out quite a bit. So this is a great ship. Obviously the Mako set works great if you're doing STFs, and that's what I do. Self-explanatory right there. The graviton beam and magnetoplasma relays as far as like insulators and recharge speed. So pretty good stuff. I really do like it. The Mako set, not bad. And then you have some of your abilities. So this thing, like I said, this torpedo is devastating. It really is. It does some major damage. But it can be destroyed because it's a slower projectile, like a tri-cobalt torpedo. Then of course I got my dish setups. This is what the back step would look like and stuff like that. So then of course for DOFs and for duty officers, I actually have been changing quite a bit. I got to get some projects going. What's going on here? But my active space, oh, that's ground space. I got projectile weapons officer, technicians, flight deck officer, which I usually change that out when I'm doing, or when I have, when I'm not using a carrier. So yeah, this poor guy, he got hit in sick bay. And I got this Klingon in my prison who's been in there in the brig for who knows how long. So, but anyhow, I have to tell you, this is a great ship. Bridge officer abilities, you have a universal commander, lieutenant commander spot, and I use that for a tactical spot because you really have no tactical spot with this. But you can use it for whatever you want. But I use it for a tactical spot because I like the beam overload, torp spread, and high yield. Which I might switch it around. I'm not sure. I may make it an engineering spot. I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe. You have a lieutenant engineering spot right here, a slot here. 1 ensign engineer, a commander science, and a lieutenant science. So there you go. And basically these are the bridge officer slots that you have. It's a science ship, so you get your default target subsystem attacks down here. So with that, we're going to watch this bad boy in action, doing some fighting. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to throw there, but I will commentate on it because I did record some gameplay with this thing to show you the full effects that this thing can actually have on playing the game. So with that, we're going to get right into action with this awesome Wells temporal science ship. All right, and we're here with the Wells Timeship, as you can see, and we're just here in an instance of combat versus some Klingons here in the Bertrand cluster for exploration. And as you can see, I'm firing off of the dual chronoton anti-proton beam array. And here's you can see me launch the temporal disruption device, which is like a, as you see, it kind of acts like a tri-cobalt torpedo, except it has more effects, as I pointed out earlier. And check out my configuration here. It looks pretty cool. If you do the high yield with the temporal disruption device, it really does some massive damage to ships, and you're going to see what I'm talking about here again. Pulling on these Vorcha cruisers, and there we go. Watch this. Then you see a giant temporal explosion, which actually will affect other ships in the vicinity. So, got the anti-protons, chronoton torpedoes, obviously, because the set enhances those. That's why I put them on the ship. And they also slow the turn rate down of your enemy. So, you can see how this thing works. So we're going to fight a few enemies here. Now, this is a really cool ship, and again, the configuration may change for me. Like, for example, my Lieutenant Science Officer, for an STF, I probably would replace the shield regeneration ability with, say, polarized hull plating, just because of the tractor beams and stuff like that. In a PvP match, I actually used polarized hull, and it worked really, really well, because people would try to put me in their tractor beam. Well, they couldn't hold me, so. But anyhow, it's not a bad ship at all. In fact, I am very, now check this out. I'm going to use the temporal backstep here in about a second, and here we go. Check it out. So as you see, they can't target me for 7 seconds, and it regenerated my hull and my shields. And that's what it will do. And it's kind of cool because you see a torpedo I launched before the backstep finally unfreeze itself. So again, really nice ship. I would suggest, again, the anti-proton configuration, obviously, because those weapons have better critical severity, critical chance. And the ship is also geared for them, because if you have the set, now obviously if you have a different set you have going on, as far as you want different weapons or a standard phaser or quantum torpedoes, I mean that would work too. But you'd obviously, it works best if you're going to use the temporal warfare set. I think it works the best out of all of them. I tried a couple different configurations on the ship actually. I tried phasers, tried some Tetrion weapons, but once I started using the temporal warfare set, it made a lot more sense, and the ship became quite effective, actually. So I, for one, was pretty happy with the results of how this ship works. And again, everyone's going to have their own different configuration. I'm sure my configuration on the Mobius will be, it probably would be a little bit the same, although I would have probably some anti-proton cannons on the front of that, as opposed to, say, just the anti-proton dual beams. I probably have some cannons and maybe a phaser beam array. Like for example, it's almost configured like an escort. So I would probably do still the dual beam array. Obviously, if I would just swap out the temporal set, put it on that ship when I wanted to use it. And reality would be, I would probably do, some anti-proton cannons up front. Maybe some anti-proton turrets in the back. Quantum torpedoes. It all depends on how I configure the Mobius and what kind of bridge officer layout I can get on it as well. So, but anyhow, you see how this thing works, and it's a really, really cool ship. If I were to rate it, now, when you were looking at some of the other lockbox ships, and I just started using the Gallard. Before the Gallard was just kind of like my green attack ship, meaning like I would use that strictly for the ferries. I had the green set on it, and which is great for fighting the green in that sector. But I've also started to use that ship a little more often. But if I had to pick a ship with the coolest abilities out of all of them, it would have to be this one. The Ferengi Decora is cool. I like the battle module. It's cool to go on the Decora's bridge and play Dabo, access your bank, and stuff like that. But at the same time, and man, did you see that temporal torpedo blast? But at the same time, and the Decora is cool. It's got the different battle modes and the missiles. But, the Jem'Hadar is more of like a hardcore escort, where Jem'Hadar fighter is more of like a hardcore escort, which just does massive damage and has great endurance for a small ship. But as far as different types of really cool abilities, I mean, this thing has it made. And I, for one, like using it the most out of all the lockbox ships. Now, the Tholian ship, I have never used it. It didn't really attract me. Maybe I'll buy one off the exchange eventually. The Tholian Widow, not the Widow Fighter, but the Orb Weaver, because it does look cool with the Tholian web. But even with that, when I look at that, I think of this time ship, and I'm thinking, man, there's so many cool abilities for this ship. I mean, there's so many cool abilities. I love the bridge, and as you saw on the bridge, you had the Alcar's interface looked so cool the way they did that, the way it moved, and it worked really well. So I was really, really ecstatic about that. So But I think this configuration works really well. Chronotons, anti-proton weapons. It does pretty good damage. Now, again, it's a science ship, so you are going to use this mainly as support. You know, science, I look at it 3 different ways. You are, if you're an attack officer, you are strictly your DPS. It's DPS, tanking, and buffing. And if you're a science guy, you buff a lot, meaning that you are using a lot of really crazy special abilities, like, you know, gravity well and viral matrix, and then obviously the photonic fleet for your science officer, if you have for the science career. And then for attack, you're just strictly mostly damage. And then when you go to engineer, you're tanking a lot. You got a lot of engineering abilities like Miracle Worker and stuff like that. So, you know, I really only use a tactical tune simply because all my goodies are on this tune. But you know, it's a great ship for whatever career you're using it on. I really feel that. And you know, one of the things that, you know, comparing it to the other box ships, I just, you know, to me, again, some of the coolest abilities. Now, what I like, and you know, I haven't really messed with the Mobius that much, but the Mannheim device that the Mobius has is really cool. So I will be doing a configuration on that somewhere down the line, and you know, once I get it, because you know, I did a not a PvP match, but I did an STF with a friend of mine from another fleet real late at night. And he showed me its abilities, the Mannheim device, and man, it was really cool. So, got about 50 lobi left to get that ship. Eventually I will. I have other things I need to do in the game. And we're going to be doing a lot of other topics, too. One of the things that I wanted to bring everybody's attention to is that, don't forget, I will do what I would call the Ultimate Duty Officer tutorial. However, I'm not going to do that until Season 7. Because Season 7 is where they are going to make a few changes, especially down on Starfleet Academy, according to rumor. So, I really don't want to do the DOF tutorial yet. You can see some of the older ones on my channel, but again, the problem with that is with the older ones, again, they're a little bit outdated. I'm not going to lie, but they are still useful. I did a Part 1 and Part 2. And once I put up the Ultimate DOF tutorial, I won't even need to have those 2 videos up. I'll probably take them down, because then I think the DOF system will be pretty much finalized on what they were going to do. But again, you know, other things, I'll be doing a lot of ship specs, just a lot of cool stuff in general for stuff down the line. And of course, when Season 7 comes out, do a full overview of some of the new features, the Omega marks, the reputation, all that stuff. I will be covering that. Once that comes out, once I've had a chance to toy with it a little bit, then I will be doing a video on that stuff. That video might be a little bit longer than normal, but doing some stuff with bridge officers. And you know, it's funny because people don't really know how to train your bridge officers. Cross training. Now check this out. There we go. You see that nice effect that I'm going to pull on this thing really quick. Here in a second, you're going to watch me come up and use another great ability that we talked about earlier in the game that comes with the temporal set. So here you go. Now check this out. You're going to see me go over here, use it here in a second. I think I use it now. The temporal inversion field. Now check this out. Now this field for about, I don't know, 15 seconds will emanate from my ship, so it will keep affecting ships in my vicinity as long as you are within 5 kilometers. And you see how it puts out that really cool. There we go. Check this out. There we go. And it puts out a really cool effect as well. But it works out really well. And that's another ability. Now that's great in PvP. It's also great in STFs because you can pretty much immobilize enemies. And that's pretty much what I did in a PvP match. I ended a random one, and when everybody got close, I just walked in with that temporal inversion field and launched it. And we just started, you know, we had a bunch of guys in escorts in this ship, and we just ripped everybody to pieces. Just because of the fact that there was no way for anybody to really move. They can still shoot at you, but you know, you get behind them. You get behind them, especially a bunch of Klingon escorts. It's hard for them to turn around and do some damage to you. So, anyhow, do want to thank everybody for watching. It's a little shorter of a video than we normally have, but I want to tell you, this is a great ship. So with that, everybody have a great time. Have fun. See you in game again. Check us out, battlefleetolympus.com. You could also contact me at twebster1977 in the Star Trek Online universe. So with that, everybody have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you all in game.